to BloombergQuint. The fight against COVID-19 is playing out at a national level, but more importantly, it's playing out at the state level. In many ways, states are the first line of defense. They're spending on healthcare, they're spending on providing for those who have lost wages and income. But remember, states are facing their own financing pressures as revenues have come to a near standstill. Here on BloombergQuint, we've been trying to understand what's happening at states, and joining us for a conversation right now is Dr. Amit Mitra, Finance Minister of the state of West Bengal. Dr. Mitra, thank you for taking out time from an excruciatingly busy schedule. I appreciate your time here on BloombergQuint.
Sure.
Dr. Mitra, my first question to you is very simply trying to understand what is happening on the ground for the last 20 or a little bit more days. What are you seeing in terms of the expenditure side, in terms of the revenue side in West Bengal, sir?
Well, let me first start with revenue. I think your listeners and viewers will want to know what is the main source of revenue of states and what has happened to those sources of revenue today. 70% of a state revenue, more or less applicable to all states, used to come from VAT, value-added tax, which has by and large in broad terms has become goods and services tax, GST, 70%. Now what has happened is that 70% revenue source has completely collapsed. Because of the lockdown, understandably, if the market is open and vegetables are being sold, there is no GST on vegetables. There is no GST on food items. By and large, there is no GST coming into the coffers of the state. So that source of revenue is more or less over, absolutely trickling in. Forget 70%, nothing is coming in. Now let's go to the second source. Second source of revenue is stamp duty and property registration. So people register property, they pay stamp duty, that becomes a revenue to the state. Now nobody is registering property, it's locked down. So therefore that's zero. Third is, source is what is normally called excise, which in common person's language is liquor. So you get a tax on the liquor that people buy, and some of the states have very large revenue from there. Bengal is not that large, but that's a source. Now, liquor shops are closed. There is no liquor sale in our state, and some states are dry, but I'm talking about those who do have liquor sale and have quite a large revenue. For them, this source is over. Then there is a question of coal, from which we get royalty and cess in Bengal. Not all states have it. Again, there is nothing happening in the mining sector. So that is closed. So by and large, and petroleum, of course, as you know, because of lockdown, we do get some revenue from there, sale of petrol and diesel and aviation turbine fuel. Now, there are no planes flying, so there's no ATF revenue. Petrol and diesel have collapsed because people are not driving around in cars and scooters. So from this description, you can see that the revenue part of the state's budget has completely collapsed. So how are we going to pay for what we have to do? COVID-19 has huge costs, plus salaries of employees and teachers in West Bengal. That has to be paid, and we must do it. We are committed to that. Those are all commitment monies. Then there are projects which have to be, for which commitment monies have to be given. Where does that money come from when you have no revenue practically? This means that the financial health of the state is today in complete jeopardy. It's in jeopardy which cannot be reversed other than other sources of not income but flow of resources.
Dr. Mitra, let me ask you a couple of follow-up questions on the revenue side. So as you were describing, and if one broadly puts it under own tax revenue of states, most of those sources have dried up. What about money that states were due to receive from for FY20 from the divisible pool of taxes, and the compensation cess left over, some of it from last year. Is some of that money flowing in a little bit to keep sort of spending going within the state?
Okay, first let's come to your question of devolution. Now, what that means is that the central government collects taxes, income tax primarily, corporate tax, and there are a few other taxes like central excise in certain specific things, import duties. Central government of India collects these taxes. Now, the Finance Commission's ruling is that 42% of the total taxes collected will have to go to the states. Now, that has been lowered now to 41% because 1% has been taken away for Kashmir, Jammu Kashmir. So 41% has to be distributed among states. Now, what happened in 2019-20, you'll be shocked to know that 11,000 crores was cut off by the central government to West Bengal. Why? In the budget estimates, it's called BE, budget estimate, a certain amount was expected in terms of tax revenues of the central government, and accordingly, it gave us an idea. So we used that in various projects in our own budget. Now, in the revised estimate by July of last year, revised estimate, 11,000 crores was reduced by the center in the case of devolution. Gone. Now, what happens to the 11,000 crores which I have already budgeted in programs, projects, and commitments? Now, this year, given the kind of situation we are in, COVID-19 world, perhaps now every happens in 200 years, 100 years, 400 years. Today in this pandemic, if center's tax collection goes down, which is bound to do, again, there will be huge cutting in terms of what they're supposed to give us. And they will claim that there's nothing we can do because our tax collection is very little. So my submission to you is that first point you made, the devolution of states given from the center has become totally dysfunctional because whatever they collect would be much, much less. Last year they cut off 11,000 crores. This year perhaps they will cut off much more. And then you have a revenue deficit grant to be given to states, amount stated by the 15th Finance Commission for this year. Now, what I had said to the Honorable Union Finance Minister is, that works out to about 5,000 crores for government of West Bengal. I suggested to her that please give us upfront this amount in the next 3 months so that, we are able to use it now so when COVID situation improves, we don't need it at that time. Nothing has happened. Now, that is 5,000 crores of revenue deficit grant that the central government has given us for the month of April, just dividing it by 12, as though nothing is happening today, and has just given us for 1 month. I had written to your Honorable Union Finance Minister, please upfront this and give us for the next 3 months in 3 installments the 5,000 crores. That hasn't happened. We have asked for a grant of 25,000 crores from West Bengal. Mamata Banerjee wrote an official letter to the Prime Minister asking for this grant because we have no revenues. Now, no response has come. And let me add the last point. The center owes to West Bengal 36,000 crores in terms of central schemes and other things which are where we pay a share and center pays a share. We in many categories. Now, most of it we have not got. And finally, GST compensation. As you know, goods and services, if your taxes don't increase by 14%, anything less than 14% is to be compensated. Now, we haven't got any compensation for GST for the month of December, January, February, March. That's over 2,000 crores, about a large sum, which has not been given. So no GST compensation, no extra care about revenue deficit grant. We have just got for a month. Central devolution is going to fall because of the nature of the situation today, so you won't get very much from there. And 36,000 crores owed to the state, nothing. 25,000 crores asked by Mamata Banerjee, the Chief Minister of West Bengal, as a package from the center, as a form of grant. There has been no response. So that's where we are.
All right, Dr. Mitra, let me ask you what you would suggest is the best possible means to try and bridge at least some of this gap. I think the full year gap will emerge as the year progresses. But in the short term, what do you see as the best sources with which states such as yours can bridge the gap between revenue and expenditure, sir?
You see, for this, Mamata Banerjee, the Honorable Chief Minister, has proposed to the Prime Minister in the video conference that was held on the 11th. She proposed something with which I agree and support, that the central government has to now come out like the US government has done, the Europeans have done, UK has done, Japan has done, come out with at least 6% of GDP as a stimulus to the economy, from which a lot of things will have to come to the states, because health is under the state, education is under the state, COVID management is under the state, and that is how much? 6% of GDP is 10 lakh crores. The United States government has already come out with a 10% of GDP, $2.2 trillion for them. UK has come out with 15% of their GDP. Japan has come out with 20% of their GDP. All that Mamata Banerjee asked for is 6%, which is 10 lakh crores. What has the central government done so far? 1% of GDP, not even 1%, 0.8% of GDP, 1,70,000 crores. So the solution today in this situation where states have no revenue source practically, expenditures are committed, they cannot be cut off. Central government has the capacity, which we don't have. They can borrow money from the Reserve Bank, they can print money, they can various instruments I don't want to go into, which we don't have. And even Mamata Banerjee asked for something more. Allow us to borrow a little more. 3% of GDP is allowed under FRBM Act. Make it 5%. No response. So basically, all of this put together, main thing is Chief Minister's proposal to the Prime Minister on 11th, which is available in the public domain. 10 lakh crores, produce a package which includes many, many things that other countries have done.
I guess the difficulty in that decision, Dr. Mitra, and I fully understand that it may need to be taken, this is a difficult time, is the market condition, the borrowing conditions which states themselves have been facing, although there has been some short-term relief. Do you see the ability to bridge some of the shortfall via facilities such as WMA, etc., which the RBI has opened up a bit?
See, those are all indirect processes. You have to go to the direct process. And that is what other countries are doing. In fact, you'd be interested to know that the Federal Bank of the United States, the Fed as it is called, itself is going into a $2.3 trillion US dollar package, where they're going to give money to the banks to go directly. They're going to, by the way, they're going to lend to states directly. All these are leads from, we have to borrow from. We have to come out and take it head on for state finances. I am confining myself to state finances with no revenues, with devolution bound to fall, with revenue deficit grant being just routinely being given. How does the state finances run? And where is federalism about? What is federalism about? If state finances collapse, your country's finances collapse. So we have to shore up the state finances with a package which Mamata Banerjee has already proposed, 6% of GDP. There is no escaping from that. And Reserve Bank of India has to take a leaf from the Fed of the United States and see what they have done, what others have done, come out and face this situation in a manner that's different from the normal. This is not normal monetary policy or managing money supply or managing interest rates or managing liquidity indirectly through three different tiers of liquidity. It has to be something that's direct.
Dr. Mitra, quick last question just on the approach to this crisis. We were speaking to Dr. Thomas Isaac yesterday, and he was saying that this is the time perhaps when you need cooperative federalism the most, but you're lacking it so far. A last word from you on the approach to the management of the crisis, and especially the financial management of the crisis that you'd like to see.
See, I've already said to you that federalism is the foundation of our constitution. This is the time that government of India, the central government of this nation, has to come out and absolutely clearly and unmitigatedly shore up the finances of the states for it to go through this COVID-19 pandemic, which is global today. This is the time that they have to provide the assistance, the strength to the states of India for the sake of upholding federalism. It is there. This is the time. It's now or never.
All right, Dr. Mitra, I'll leave it at that. Very, very kind of you to take out a few minutes of a very busy schedule. Appreciate your analysis and your thoughts on what's happening at the state level. Very beneficial to hear for our viewers and our readers as well. Thanks for watching.
You're very welcome.